The internet talks a lot about daddy issues, but one thing that we don't really hear a lot about are mummy issues. You know, the kind of problematic relationship between mother and child. And I feel as though this is quite an unexplored trope. However, there has been some good books written on this sort of relationship in the past couple of years. So in this video, I'm going to be telling you about books on mummy issues that I think that you should read. 6 of them to be specific. And if you're new here, I'm Katerina and welcome to the channel. If you can't tell, I love talking about all sorts of books. And also just to begin, Mum, if you're watching this isn't anything about you, so move on. Okay, let's get into it. The first book on my list is Crying in H Mark by Michelle Zauner. This book is essentially a memoir of a, at the time, 25-year-old Korean-American woman about losing her mother. And whilst this book obviously touches upon illness with her mother's long and intense battle with cancer, and the subsequent grief that tornadoes through her once her mother passes, it also deep dives into her life, reflecting on the time she had with her mum growing up. And it explores aspects of their relationship which was unique to them. I absolutely adored this book, even though it completely destroyed me, because it explores the intricate bonds between mother and daughter relationships so well, because it digs deep into so many various aspects that come within the relationship. And it also adds an additional layer of her mum being an immigrant herself. Her experiences include coming to terms with her identity as half Korean in a very white school and city, struggling with her mum's high and relentless expectations of her, travelling back to Korea often to visit her grandmother, and whilst there, bonding with her mother over their love for their cultural food. Which is why the book is called what it is, because she goes to H Mart, which is a popular Korean supermarket, and it brings back a lot of painful memories. And I particularly love this book because I thought it was such a balanced way of viewing complicated relationship with mothers. For this main character, they confront that even though their mother made their life really difficult at times, especially when she had so many personal aspects going on in her life, including forming her identity, making friends, studying at school, but she recognizes that you can still deeply love someone and grieve them once they've passed, even though they had a bad relationship. It's just such a gorgeous book, and I think it's definitely going to be one that I will read again, but only when I've built up enough emotional strength to let it destroy me for a second time. The second book on my list is On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Vuong. This book is essentially a compilation of letters written by a son in his late 20s, all to his single mother, who in fact cannot read. All these letters essentially explore his family, their history, his mum, his grandmother, etc., all of whom's history is based in Vietnam. And in these letters, he admits secrets to her of who he is and also what he's experienced. Sorry, but like the last book, this will probably also destroy you with sadness as well. God, I wonder what this says about my mental health that I love devastating books so much. But anyway, unlike the other books I'm going to be mentioning, this book specifically focuses on a mother and son relationship, which is really fantastic because I feel like this is such an unexplored area within literature, as we constantly hear about mother and daughter tropes but never really about mother-son ones. And this novel very much explores identity of himself, as he was essentially caught in this world where his mum is from, but he's struggling to bridge that gap to another world of who he wants to be. But also at the same time, it explores his undeniable and instinctive love he has for her, whilst also emotionally discussing race, class, and the nature of masculinity. This book also has one of my favourite quotes of all time, which I'll read to you. "You once told me that the human eye is God's loneliest creation, how so much of the world passes through the pupil and still it holds nothing. The eye, alone in its socket, doesn't even know there's another one, just like it, an inch away, just as hungry, as empty." Stunning. This book is just a gorgeous read that I very much recommend, especially if you want your heart shattered. The third book on my list is Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. This novel is set in a perfect American suburban neighborhood. Think of Wisteria Lane from Desperate Housewives. If you know, you know. And from the start, the book introduces a seemingly perfect family. However, one day, a single mother and her only daughter move into the neighborhood who seem to threaten this ordered community. They then befriend this perfect family. However, a custody battle erupts when this family want to adopt a Chinese-American baby. Drama ensues, and unexpected and devastating secrets unfold that cost the family. This book was so gripping. It literally had the feel of like a crime novel, because there's this secret that's hidden that you're waiting to be uncovered. So you're constantly on edge and listening to all these character conversations, just waiting for someone to slip up and reveal what they're hiding. And it generally had me so hooked until the very end to find out what was going to happen. And even this aside, I love this book for showcasing the power of motherhood and this love that they can have with their children. because it shows how protective love can lead to dangerous and sometimes even devastating outcomes. And whilst this book is set in a rich neighbourhood, I really liked how it explored issues of class and the whole unspoken topic about how being wealthy opens a lot more doors to mothers than ones who are not. This one's a very different book from all the others I'm recommending, so I would definitely encourage you to read this book if you like fast-paced and gripping books. The next book on my list is Breasts and Eggs by Mieko Kawakami. This is a contemporary Japanese novel that follows three women's anxieties and frustrations regarding womanhood. You have a daughter, her mother, and the mother's sister. And the topics explored range from female rage in puberty and insecurity in body image, all the way to loneliness from childlessness and the fear of growing old as a woman. I absolutely adore this novel because it's so character heavy. So a lot of the book revolves around the conversations that the characters have with each other. And I've said this before, but the author has this godlike ability to write the most raw and honest dialogue that you've ever read, that sometimes you generally forget that you're reading a book and not just listening into like a real conversation between people. And I extremely resonated with this book because I felt like it very much addressed my own anxieties and frustrations around being a woman. And it was quite comforting to hear when it's sounded out like that, especially as the range in the characters' ages allow them to talk about a variety of subjects, like the ones I've mentioned of puberty, motherhood, body insecurity, and aging. And it also explores their relationships with each other as mothers, daughters, sisters, which just added a whole new layer to the story. And it also explored their relationships to each other as mothers, daughters, sisters, which I honestly felt just like added a whole new layer to the themes explored that was really interesting. This is actually my favourite book written by this author, so I would 100% recommend for you to read. The next book on my list is Motherthing by Ainslie Hogarth. This is a comedic domestic horror novel that follows a woman who lives with her husband and his toxic mother. And at the very start of the book, we find out that the mother-in-law has actually taken her own life due to depression. However, this lady comes back as a vengeful ghost who then just doesn't leave the house. So we find our protagonist going to extreme measures to rid her for once and for all. Firstly, this book just screams mother issues all around. We have a mother-in-law who is super toxic and nasty to our main character, not to mention who also had a very abusive mother growing up who is now estranged, so she's dealing with a lot of past trauma and learning to heal from this, as well as also wanting to become a mother herself and experiencing issues with conceiving as she desperately wants a child. And whilst all those aspects sound incredibly intense and sort of depressing, this is a strange novel because it's also sort of camp and comedic at the same time, as we have, again, this desperate housewife-ish character who seems like a perfect domestic goddess on the surface. You know, she can cook, she can clean. However, she turns absolutely unhinged to get rid of this ghost. And Lord knows, I absolutely adore an unhinged woman. I actually made a video about unhinged women that I'll link in the description below. But I'll be honest, I liked this book, but I didn't love it. And nearing the end of the book, I found the main character to be quite annoying and repetitive at times. And I found the ending of the book to be quite a letdown and to not really make sense. However, I know others that absolutely loved this book, as it has all the elements of a weird, nonsensical story narrated by an absolutely unhinged woman. And as much to my dismay, my opinions are not always right, so I wanted to put this book out there in case you wanted to read it and you find yourself liking it more. And the very last book on my list is Milkfed by Melissa Broder. Buckle in, because this description is going to sound very bizarre. The novel follows a bisexual Jewish 24-year-old woman who, at the start of the novel, we find out has a very intense eating disorder, while she's also going through a 90-day communication detox with her mum. She then one day meets another young Orthodox Jewish woman, and our main character finds herself entranced with this other woman, her family, and her faith. We then explore her feelings for physical hunger, sexual desire, and spiritual longing. I told you it was a weird description. And I'll be honest, overall, I did not actually like this book. But again, I know others who absolutely loved it, and to be honest, there were aspects of the book that I did like. So I want to include it just in case it sparks your interest to read it. I liked how this book explored disordered eating and how it seemed to stem from the relationship that she had with her mum when she was young. And it also explores the behaviour in disordered eating, such as calorie restriction, food rituals, and obsessive exercise, all which give her the illusion of maintaining control. And I find it really interesting how she was looking for other mother figures throughout her life, wherever she went, which I think is rarely talked about, but it's something that needs to be discussed more in media. However, Whilst I felt like the book started off really strong on these aspects, it then just sort of dwindled and genuinely just then focused on lesbian sex. And it wasn't even tasteful, like it literally felt like the book was written by a man with a lesbian fever dream. But again, I know that a lot of people actually did really rate this book highly, so I wanted to include it in case the description sparked your interest to read. Because I want to include variety, because you may like some books that I don't. And there you have it, those are all the books I recommend to you on complicated mother relationships. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please drop a like down below, it really helps my channel out. Did you read any of these books? If so, which ones did you like? And do you agree with my opinions on them? And if not, what books have you read that give mummy issues? If you're new here, please subscribe. I make new videos every single Tuesday and it'd be lovely to see you there. And I'm also hoping to make a book on daddy issues, so stick around so you can watch that. Feel free to also follow me on my Instagram. I post a lot more personal stuff on there, but I also post books as soon as I finish reading them, so you can see what they're about and what I've rated them out of 10 in case you want to read it too. Once again, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!